How are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. Hi. So today's video, candle of the day, first and foremost, obviously the most important part. Candle of the day is pink apple punch. I was feeling just like pink. I don't know if you could tell, but I was feeling like a pink moment, so I decided a little pink candle would be kind of fun. But anyway, it smells good. Today's video, we are going to be talking about what I would like to call sort of the moral dilemma of the channel MrBeast here on YouTube. And we're going to get into all of this, but basically the gist is MrBeast does a lot of sort of charity work and a lot of just basically giving away money and like giving away things, and his videos mostly center around money and how to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And while I think overall he's a good channel, I do think there's a discussion to be had about sort of the moral dilemma of making money by giving money away, if that makes sense. And I think it's more just something that I would love to have kind of a conversation about, because I think it's a really interesting concept. I think the way he runs his channel and him as a person is super interesting. So I just wanted to look into that today. But before we jump into this topic, today's video is sponsored by Raycon. Today's video is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon is disrupting the electronics industry by designing premium wireless headphones for half the price without compromise. Raycon is doing things differently than other brands out there. From the way they design their products to the way they price them, Raycon prioritizes their customer experience from start to finish. Raycon offers their wireless earbuds in a range of fun colors and patterns. I got mine in black, which I love. They are so sleek. And they have a variety of fit options, so there are no dangling wires or stems. The company was co-founded by Ray J, and a bunch of other celebrities really are obsessed with Raycon, like Snoop Dogg and Brandy. The earbuds give you 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and more compact design for a comfortable, noise-isolating fit, and they also have a 45-day free return policy if you are not satisfied with your order. If you're trying to take a break from the screens but don't want to feel totally unplugged, Raycon wireless earbuds are the best way to bring your favorite content with you wherever you go. My Raycon earbuds have been an absolute lifesaver for doing things like editing YouTube videos or being on a Zoom call. Love wearing them while I'm working out, so I can still listen to my favorite TV shows without having to necessarily be right in front of my screen watching them. If you're interested in Raycon earbuds, click the link in my description box or go to buyraycon.com/Smokey to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring this video and supporting my channel, and yeah, go check them out. Thank you so much again to Raycon, and let's jump right in. So MrBeast, whose name is actually Jimmy, is a YouTuber with almost 55 million subscribers here on YouTube. My hypothesis about Jimmy is that he's probably going to end up hitting 100 million subscribers in the next year or so, and I think he will very quickly surpass channels like T-Series and PewDiePie, who were formerly the most subscribed to channels on the platform. Just at the rapid rate he is growing and also the amount of views that he is getting, I definitely think he's on sort of a he's on the rise and will likely be one of the biggest creators on the platform very soon. MrBeast actually started his channel making gaming content, and it's actually interesting watching those old videos. He's just like a kid, but he kind of blew up with a video that was him counting to 100,000. And basically it's like a 10-hour video where he quite literally just counts to 100,000. And this video went viral because it was just kind of nutty, and he started making more and more content like this. He watches It's Everyday Bro for 10 hours straight. He put like 1 million Orbeez in his friend's backyard. So he does these sort of challenge-like videos that are just so extreme and so extra that like, how do you even think of that? Like, how do you even think to record yourself watching It's Everyday Bro for 10 hours? And I think the thing people really liked about MrBeast in the beginning was that if he said he was going to do a challenge, he really committed to it. There was only one video I found where he didn't complete the challenge, and it was the staying underwater for 24-hour challenge. And that's literally, I think, because he was not getting enough oxygen and he just couldn't do it physically, which like makes sense. MrBeast really started growing and blowing up with a video where he gave a homeless man $10,000. And this was another one of his videos that really blew him up and made him kind of go viral. And I think that this is really important to note because before that video of him giving that person $10,000, MrBeast wasn't doing a ton of like philanthropy or charity work. His channel was really just like him and his friends messing around, playing games or doing pranks and stuff like that. There wasn't any sort of theme to it that was giving money. But when this video did so well, he started doing that more and more. He would go to restaurants and tip people like outrageous tips just for bringing him a glass of water. He would go through fast food drive-thrus and hand people wads of cash. He would donate like thousands of dollars to Twitch streamers that only had a couple of viewers. And these videos performed very, very well in the algorithm. And I think there's been a sort of interesting shift in the past year with his content, where it went from doing this sort of randomized, just giving people large amounts of money so you can get their reactions because people enjoy watching that, to doing actual like charity and philanthropic work. Now he has started a second channel called MrBeast Philanthropy. He has organized massive charity projects. Team Trees is like a perfect example of this. In 2019, he decided that he wanted to plant 20 million trees by 2020 and got donors like every YouTuber on the platform and like Elon Musk to donate millions and millions of dollars to plant trees. His newest sort of thing is to get people interested in space and science, and he has paired up with NASA to send a hard drive of photos that people can submit to the moon. So it's gone from these more small scale, giving a waitress a $10,000 tip, to large scale, buying people homes, giving away cars for free, giving away technology for free, and also organizing these sort of large scale community-based charity projects. And it's gotten to a point with his channel where pretty much every video is centered around money in some way or another. He's either giving his team members, because he has a huge team behind him that works with him, he's either giving his team members like homes or cars, or he's just giving strangers things. And also, if you watch podcasts with him, he's been on a few. He talked to Casey Neistat, he went on the H3 podcast. So if you listen to him sort of talk about these things, he's very open that he has spent millions of dollars a year creating this content, giving money away. He also talks a lot about how he pays for the taxes on things that he gives people, which I think is people's number one question. Whenever you get a free car, is like, what are the taxes? He's opened up that he pays for that because he doesn't want to give people a gift that they can't keep or give people something they can't afford. When he gives something to someone, he wants them to be able to utilize it the way that they want to. So he spends millions of dollars on his channel a year. I think to anyone, that's very generous, and obviously it's a lot of money, and I think that's a positive thing. But I also think there's something to be said about making money by giving money. I think there's not a ton of transparency in how his actual business like works and runs. I do think sometimes that leaves people feeling a little bit weird because he is absolutely profiting off of giving other people money and sort of using that emotional reaction that we have to helping people. He's using that as a way to, in turn, make himself very wealthy. And also, I think there's a conversation to be had about sort of the intentions behind a person who only gives away money and does charitable things to get hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. I think as a society, we've talked at length about sort of doing this very public donation and why are you really doing something? What are the real intentions behind doing something like that so publicly? I think there's a lot of pros and cons to what MrBeast does, and I'm gonna start off this discussion sort of by saying I actually like MrBeast. Like, I like what he does. I like what he stands behind. I like that because of him, we see YouTubers caring a lot more about things like the environment, like, you know, science-based programs. I appreciate what he does with his platform, and I actually don't dislike him as a creator. With that being said, I still think that there are some flaws to what he does, and I think they're important to talk about, given that he is probably going to become the biggest creator on this platform. Now, I think what's important to note is MrBeast's videos get like tens of millions of views, and his videos are relatively family friendly. Some of them not so much, but he's definitely heavily pushed by YouTube. He's often featured on the trending page, and he doesn't use copyright music like David Dobrik or anything like that. So that usually means that he is going to be in the good graces of YouTube, meaning that he's probably making a killing on AdSense. The other thing to add into that is his videos are well over 20 minutes, most of them, and most of them have mid-roll ads, meaning that he's making even more than you would be making from, like, again, I think David Dobrik's a good comparison view-wise. He's making even more because it's such a long-form content that you can put ads in, right? So he's already making that money that he is spending in his videos, even though it may seem crazy for somebody to just spend like $1 million a video, it's really not that crazy when you're making so much money from AdSense. The other aspect of it is MrBeast does sponsorships. Now, I know that the rate for somebody with like 3 million subscribers who gets really good engagement, who gets maybe 2 million views a video, somebody who gets that type of engagement is getting paid like $60,000 a sponsorship. So to scale that to somebody who is getting minimum 10 million views a video and has 50 million subscribers, to sort of scale that number, he's getting paid easily 6 figures per sponsorship. There is no way that he is doing a sponsorship for a random app for under $200,000. Like, there's just no way that that is happening because he has such an intense reach, and also his fan base is predominantly younger. It definitely skews younger, which is like a dream for advertisers, because who is buying online video game apps on their phones? Young people. Who's gonna spend $3.99 on an app? His fan base. So he has it all set up perfectly to be making so much money from sponsorships and AdSense that it's easily funding his videos. But on top of that, MrBeast has a merch line. I can't even begin to speculate how much merch he sells, but he plugs it in every single video, and I would imagine he's making millions of dollars selling that merchandise. Again, there's not a ton of creators that are super comparable to MrBeast, but I know Logan Paul, when he was at the height of his sort of fame, he was doing the daily vlogs and he had the Maverick merch. I know he was saying that he was bringing in millions of dollars from his merchandise alone. So scale that to a MrBeast size channel, and I think he's making a killing on merchandise. So all of this to say, he's bringing in millions and millions and millions of dollars per year. So even though he's saying, yes, I spent $600,000 on this video, that's kind of a drop in the bucket for somebody who's going to probably make $1 million from that video when all is said and done between sponsorships, advertisers, and merch. So it becomes a question of how much of an income is he actually making off of these videos? How much is he bringing in? And his kind of thing in interviews that I've watched of him is he basically says that he lives a very frugal life. He drives like a normal car. He lives in a normal apartment. Like, he doesn't spend a lot of money. He basically says he wants to die with no money. He just wants to give money away and just like not worry about that. But also in interviews, it's a little contradicting, because then he'll say things like, oh, like, I'm gonna be set for the rest of my life. I've put enough money aside for me that like I'm gonna be good. So it's a little contradicting. And honestly, and I don't mean this to be like a jerk, but I feel like there's a whole other rhetoric on the internet of people being like, oh, do you see Mark Zuckerberg? He just wears gray t-shirts and jeans, and that's why he's a billionaire, because he doesn't spend money on like nice things. And that's bullshit. Like, his t-shirts are $400 a piece. Like, I feel like rich people always try to convince people who aren't rich that the way they got there is by being frugal, and that's really not the case. Bill Gates, like, famously on the Ellen Show was like, oh, I live a frugal life, but he lives in like a $200 million mansion. So that's not frugal. Most billionaires are not actually being frugal. Money just doesn't mean anything to them, so they think they're being frugal. Anyway, one thing I will say to MrBeast's credit is that it doesn't feel like he makes people sort of beg for money. He doesn't make people give him like a sob story to explain why they need this money or why it would change their life. And that's something that I personally kind of had an issue with going into COVID. At the beginning of COVID, we saw a lot of people kind of go through this weird phase where they were like, tweet me why you need money and I'll just send you money. And it was basically becoming a competition of whose life was the worst. It was people very publicly having to beg rich and famous people for like a couple $100s and basically give the worst story of their life very publicly to try to get the attention of these people for money. And it very much seemed like influencers were just trying to sort of do this, you know, public altruism to seem like they were very nice, when in reality, giving away $30,000 to somebody like Jeffree Star or Tana Mongeau, again, it's a drop in the bucket. And honestly, the good PR that they get from doing something like that makes them all of that money back. So to MrBeast MrBeast's credit, it doesn't feel like he does a lot of that. It's not a lot of like sob stories. After he gives people money, usually they talk about like why they needed it or why it was important to them, but he's not having people begging to get, you know, a couple $1,000s. And I think that is a pro to his channel that he doesn't do that.
Hi, it's editing me. I also feel like it's important to note though, because while that's true, like while he doesn't make people do sob stories, a lot of his videos and his content definitely cross that line into degrading people in order to get something. Like, a lot of his videos revolve around staying in a car for as long as you can, which involves people literally pooping out of the car window in buckets, people going absolutely delirious trying to win like $1 million. So while he doesn't do the whole sob story thing, I will agree that some of his videos, especially his more challenge videos, do involve degrading people to a certain extent.
But the con to that is he definitely is still using kind of emotions for clickbait. For example, if you click on a video titled "I Ubered people and then let them keep the car," you know you're gonna see people crying. You know you're gonna see people who really need something getting it. Like, that's what you expect when clicking on a MrBeast video. And in a weird way, he has gained an intense amount of sort of celebrity and also money doing this. And also, it does seem unrealistic that he just like hates money. It feels like that's something he just says because it's like interesting and funny and his childlike fan base will believe it. It seems like he's too savvy of a person to just like hate money, you know? I don't know. I have a hard time believing that one because it feels so like inauthentic to just be like, oh, I just literally give everything away and leave nothing for myself, even though the numbers of what he's probably making definitely do not add up to the money that he gives away. I think this was sort of exacerbated with COVID too, because it was reported that MrBeast and his company actually got COVID relief and COVID stimulus, which it's not the fault of MrBeast that like he got that stimulus and there were 1,000,002 small businesses that were still waiting for that stimulus even today. Some people still haven't gotten it. It's not his fault that he got it before smaller businesses who really, really needed it. But it does bring up an interesting question of why a YouTuber with allegedly millions of dollars he can just blow on all these videos. It brings up an interesting question of why he needed that COVID relief. And granted, he does have a team and he does have employees to pay, but at the same time, if you're allegedly making so much money that you can afford to just give it away, it felt a little bit weird, and I think it was very off-putting to see somebody like MrBeast, who is a millionaire, getting COVID relief and getting relief from the government. I think at the end of the day, the biggest sort of problem with MrBeast, and you can take this as you will, but I think the biggest problem is there's no real transparency with the financial side of things, and I think that's why people are so suspect about him. Because yes, if you're like one of his child subscribers, of course you think he just hates money and he just burns it and just like gives it away because like he doesn't care. But I think if you look at the numbers side of things and you really think about how much he's pulling in from this business, it's hard to look at that and be like, oh yeah, he just hates money and that's why he's doing this. Like, I think the lack of transparency in how much he's making versus how much he's giving is a little off-putting, and I don't think it would be if he didn't kind of claim that every cent he had just went away. If he didn't claim that he was only doing this philanthropy, if he didn't claim that he was only using this money for good. Because that's kind of the vibe and the message that he puts out, is he doesn't care about the money at all and everything he gets, he gives. And I think that persona that he puts out is why it's so palatable to watch someone get famous for doing charity work, basically, like just giving away money. My sort of thing that I think about him, and this is obviously my hypothesis because I literally do not know him, but my whole thinking about it is I don't necessarily think he is really in it for the money. I am a little sus about the numbers of it all, but I don't necessarily think he's even in it for the money. I think MrBeast is a classic example of a kid who grew up watching YouTube and wants to be a YouTuber first and foremost. I'm sure that not having to worry about finances is a very nice perk for him. I think he does more what he does in terms of his charity work and giving so much money away. I think he does more of that because he wants to be the biggest YouTuber on this platform. I think he cares much more about the fame of YouTube and being a #1 YouTuber and creating this amazing out of this world, like out of the box, nobody's really doing this content. I think that's why he does it, and that is his motivating factor. I think the success of being the biggest YouTuber on the platform mentally is what drives him, because it's actually really interesting. He has a lot of videos that he's posted that were like throwback videos, like he scheduled them 5 years ago, and it's him as a young kid kind of talking about his hopes and his expectations for the channel, and you watch his sort of story unfold, and he really is a kid who just like loves YouTube, like to death. He worked overtime to make this channel as big as it did, and I think that is his driving force. I don't necessarily think I think the charity, I think he does enjoy doing it, but I think his real driving force is getting to be so successful on a platform that he clearly loves so much. At the end of the day, I don't think that what he does is like a bad thing. I'm never gonna sit here and say donating money to people or helping people is a bad thing. I'm never gonna say that making kids more aware of charities is a bad thing. He like opened a food bank in his local town. I'm never gonna say that those things are bad things, because even if you are filming them and posting them, they're positive things. However, I do just wish that there was more sort of transparency around the money that he's bringing in versus the money that he's giving, because he's kind of running his business as if it's a charity, and the numbers don't necessarily add up onto that one. And I understand that this is like his shtick, and like, you know, he has a younger fan base. He has kind of a character that he plays, because I think that's another con to MrBeast is, unless you're watching these sort of interviews that he does outside of his main channel, you don't really get a good grasp of his personality and who he is from his main channel. He doesn't do videos like talking about himself too much. We don't really know a ton about him based on the persona he has on his YouTube channel. And I think that adds to this sort of insincerity that maybe adults feel in what he does. I think that if he was a little bit more transparent, I don't think there would be so much conversation around whether what he's doing is like good or bad or anything like that. I don't think those moral questions would exist, but I also don't think he would get as much credit as he does if he was more transparent about it. Because I think if he owned up to the fact that he is making a profit off of all of this, I don't think people would necessarily be as like invested in these videos as they are thinking that he just wants to die broke, you know? I don't know. I think it's a really interesting topic though. Like, does doing charity work like this so publicly take away from the work that you're doing because there is this sort of self-servingness to it? Or is it just like, fine, whatever, we don't care? Very interested to see what you guys have to say about this topic. I think it's a really complicated issue, so I'm really, really interested to hear your thoughts. I love you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with my little social justice spotlight. Go check it out. Click the link, stay informed, stay involved. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
What?